Stephanie Soltis was born on November 1st, 1979, in Mission Viejo, California. From a young age, her parents Ken and Suzanne taught her to be grateful for the country she lives in.
They're always trying to be teaching us these little lessons about how, it's Orange County, right? So it's pretty nice here, and it's not like we have super hard lives. And they would always be trying to just kind of emphasize, hey, we're really lucky to be here. We're really lucky that, we were born in the United States in the time that we were, and it's not this way everywhere. And, at some point, you need to make your contribution.
Stephanie decided to make her contribution by joining the United States Army. Among many options, she decided to enlist in the Air Force.
What also narrowed it down is that I wanted the option to fly. At the time, I didn't necessarily know that I specifically wanted to fly, but I wanted the option to. So at that point, that kind of narrows it down to the Air Force or the Navy. And at least in the mid-90s, the choice was pretty easy.
In order to be in the Air Force, Stephanie had to go through basic training and attend the Air Force Academy.
The academy is 4 years long. You end up with a bachelor's degree out of it. And then you also have tons of different military training that's going on at the same time. So some of it's flight related because it's the Air Force. Some of it is just, for instance, we go through woodland survival training, winter survival, water survival, prisoner of war training. And that's all very early on. And then after I graduated from the academy, I went to pilot training. And that's a year long. And that's several different phases, flying progressively more sophisticated jet aircraft before you move on and learn to fly the one that you'll end up flying for 10 plus years.
Stephanie flew C-17s during the War on Terror in the Middle East. The War on Terror started after 9/11 on October 7, 2001, and was waged against terrorist groups such as Al-Qaeda and the Taliban, but also included the Iraq War.
So I was a pilot, so flew aircraft. It's a C-17, which is a big 4-engine cargo jet. The thing is massive, and so the purpose was to haul men and equipment wherever they needed to go. We also flew a lot of medevacs. We could basically set up the back end of the airplane as a flying hospital. So I did that for about 4 years straight. We would fly down to Iraq or Afghanistan, pick up the injured guys, and then bring them back up to Germany so that they could get the treatment that they needed. And if we got them back up there, it was about a 97% survival rate. So we were always trying to make sure that happened. And the C-17, it's a cargo aircraft, so it's basically like the military's station wagon, like whatever you need to get somewhere, and if it'll fit, toss it in the back and we'll take it wherever you need it to go. So that was a lot of what it was about, transporting people and things and equipment various different places. Big focus was on the medevac for a lot of that time, but we would take helicopters, we would take tanks, we would take people.
Stephanie continued to be promoted to higher positions in the Air Force.
After I graduated from the academy, I was commissioned as a second lieutenant, and then you kind of get promoted on up. So by the time I left active duty, and as a reservist today, I'm a major. And then my occupational position was C-17 co-pilot, and then you prove that you're learning and advancing and have the good sense of safety and are trustworthy. So eventually you upgrade to aircraft commander, and then eventually I became an instructor pilot, so I teach other people how to fly as well.
While she was away, Stephanie made sure to stay in contact with her family and visit them.
Initially at the academy, letter writing. And then once the school year starts, you're able to get a computer, so email essentially became the main way. I didn't really have access to a phone until junior year at the academy, and cell phones were this big back then. And then once I had graduated and was on active duty and was stationed in the U.S. or around the world, I would call my family once a week or so when I was in the United States, and I would call them before I left on a trip, and then I would call them when I got back so that they knew I'd come home safely. And then when I was gone, you'd stay in touch via email. I would specifically it was hard to get leave actually because the tempo of operations was so high that we were constantly having to be gone, and it would get very competitive to take vacation. So you'd have to set up a lottery system, and so I'd end up trying to bid on very unpopular times. So I pretty much think a couple times I got to come home for Christmas, but we were either out flying or you just couldn't get the leave. So I would try and come home for a little bit, after between Thanksgiving and Christmas, so that I could see my family during the holiday season. And then other times, I would try and come home in October or November. So I came home once a year or so. When I lived in Washington, my parents would come visit me once a year or so.
After Stephanie got off active duty, she begins to readjust to life back home.
Things are very different because it's as though your life stopped on whatever day you left the US, and then everybody else has progressed for 6 months. So you get home and things have changed for your family, things have changed for your relationships, except that you don't really have any idea what happened. I remember one deployment I came home, I had no idea who the Jonas Brothers were. I don't really think that's a big loss. Somebody told a Lady Gaga joke and I didn't get it. So things like that, you almost have to spend some time trying to get up to the point, trying to catch back up with everybody, with your family, because they've been through stuff, you've been through stuff, maybe your relationship with your significant other doesn't survive, so you have to kind of catch back up with where everybody else is, because it's like you were in this state of suspended animation, Their lives went on and yours kind of turned into Groundhog Day, get up, fly mission, work out, go to bed. So there were little mini adjustments and it would depend on the deployment. I think one of the weirdest things is everything is so brown and tan in Iraq and Afghanistan that it got to the point where coming home and seeing flowers or colors it was actually painful to my eyes because everything had been it was some different shade of tan for months at a time.
Stephanie has since graduated from USC, and even though she is a reserve and is required to fly once a month, she works in investment management at PIMCO.
When I got off active duty, I didn't really know what I wanted to do with my life. I think the natural progression perhaps would have been to go and be an airline pilot, but I didn't think that sounded kind of routine and dull to me. Delta's not going to let me do with a 757 what the Air Force will let me do with a C-17. So I was kind of looking for something else. I wanted to go back to school just because I like school. I like learning things. I wanted to learn new stuff. But it was admittedly a little bit of a tactical Heisman to the real world. Okay, I'll go to grad school and figure out what I want to do. And then, move on from there. So it gave me some time to figure that out. And, business school is pretty varied and nebulous. It gives you the opportunity to kind of figure out what you want to do instead of being so specialized just to say, okay, I'm going to go be a lawyer. So I work for PIMCO, the Pacific Investment Management Company down there at Fashion Island. And I work with investment consultants. Broadly speaking, we're an investment manager. So I like to think that what we do is a similar level of stewardship. It used to be my job to get people safely from one place to another. And now it kind of is with their retirement. To me, that's what we do is help people get to that point. And help hospitals. I work with healthcare clients, help hospitals manage their investments such that they can afford to build, the cancer wing that they want to build. In the end, we come home, we build careers and families just like, your neighbors, your families as well.
Overall, wartime experience and the bonds that she built impacted Stephanie through opening her eyes to a new perspective and shaped her into who she is today.
I think the biggest is a sense of perspective and reinforcing the same thing that my parents were saying when I was a kid. We're really, really lucky to be here, really lucky to have been born here. The limitations on what any of us is going to do is basically how hard are you willing to work, and it's not like that a lot of places. I remember when we were flying in Afghanistan, we would fly over these walled mud compounds, and you'd see these women inside these walls, and they're wearing burqas, and their life just doesn't exist outside this compound unless some male relative says that they can leave, and our experience is not going to be like that for any of us. So definitely a sense of perspective. I think one of the great things is that after everything you've been through in the military, there isn't really anything here that's ever going to scare you again. We all have bad days and there's all kinds of challenging things that we all face, but sometimes I just think, well, nobody's trying to kill me today, so it's going to be a good day. So I think a sense of gratitude and a sense of perspective. I mean, I'm fortunate to be here. A lot of guys didn't come back in one piece or didn't come back at all. So I think whatever time I have left, just try and do good things with it. In the main, absolutely, I would say it was overall a positive experience and has led me to where I am now, which is a place that I'm very happy. So, some memories you wish maybe you didn't necessarily have, but everything leads to where you are now and who you are now. So overall, I wouldn't trade it. There's so many crazy things and situations that you find yourself in that you look back on later and realize this was kind of nuts. But if I had anything that was favorite about it, I think it's similar to any situation. It's the people, that make or break it. And it's a little bit, I think it's much more of an intense bond with the guys that you served with and flew with and fought with and were in combat with and had insane things happen. You go through these types of experiences with people. I think that the bond that engenders is much stronger than anything else that you could find yourself with.